Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me as a speaker here. First of all, I will kind of try to present MasterCard first, which is a bit awkward because people think I will talk about cards and payments, and I will not. But let me do that by introducing you to a video.
At MasterCard, we're powering economies and empowering people. At every moment, we're connecting businesses, governments, and 7.7 billion people to a global digital economy. We're designing easy ways to pay, across town or across borders, faster or later, from the comfort of home or on the go. We're protecting people's data and identities. We're helping businesses make smarter decisions and making money more secure. We're bringing more people into the financial mainstream and helping small businesses get online to create a more sustainable economy where everyone prospers. We strive to be a force for good, creating value, growing together, and moving fast for our customers and each other. At the end of the day, we're all about making connections. From everyday moments to innovations across the globe, MasterCard helps millions of people do incredible things. Together, the possibilities are priceless.
So, what do you think about this? This could be a video of all of you. To be honest, that's not that different. And that's what I want to talk about. So one of the things that we give as a message to our employees is the credo that we live by is doing good by doing well, doing good for society, but also making some margin and profit to reinvest in technology. So personally, I'm leading a cybersecurity product unit within MasterCard at a global level. And in that way, I'm looking at how can we use technology in a better way, in a smarter way? And the first thing we start with, to be honest, is saying, MasterCard, do you have a right to speak here? Because that's the first question you should ask me. And we think we have. The thing is, we deal with a lot of data. Everyone deals with a lot of data. We are using AI and equivalent technologies in a very sophisticated way for tens of years already. The reason being, because we are looking at card and payment transactions. And because we're looking at most of the card and payment transactions, if we need to decide this is trustworthy or not trustworthy, we need to do it in a split second. And the challenge is people in Brazil are not the same or don't act the same as people in France. So you don't need to build a model for the globe, you need a model for every country, every religion in a country, every region in the country has different rules. And that is impossible to do with a non-machine learning system because you have to apply so many rules that you would get lost and you cannot update them in a frequent enough way to make it system sustainable. So, like I said, I will not talk about cards and payments. I also will not talk about generative AI. I will not talk about ChatGPT, nor will I talk about chatbots or anything of that sort. I will also not tell anything about the death of the metaverse, because I think it's dead, but okay. I want to talk about the things that I think you can do with AI today very pragmatically, practically, because that is what is important for you and your customers. Because the first thing we should never, ever forget is AI or technology or digitalization, whatever you call it, it's not about the lines of coding. It's about what does lines of coding mean for people. Never forget the people in this, because it's people that interact with systems, that people that interact, that have experience and are experiencing it. And if you do a bad job in coding, they will be disappointed. They will not get out of this what they want. So you always start back in anything of digitalization, anything of AI, you start back in looking at what is my customer base? What are my stakeholders? Whether or not it's SMEs, small merchants, consumers, but also governments or households. That is what you really need to care about and think about when you design, you desire to move into a more digitalized solution set. Because some people will never get behind a home banking PC, no matter how good you make it. Some people will be excluded from that. So that is the things you need to think about, is how can you help those people as well? Because that is, otherwise you lead to a solution set that excludes people from being banking. And that's the worst thing that can happen to the world. So the way we look at technology is that you need to look at technology in what we call an ecosystem. You need to look at the people, the technology, but all the stakeholders around you. And the challenge with that is that you always forget things. I'll give you an example, and I'll give an example out of the banking world. So if you did take a decision on loans and credit, it was mentioned before, it's very good to consider all the financial risk. But have you then thought about, I'll give an example, the cyber risk. If you know that 60% of the small businesses that are hacked or get exposed to ransomware are going bankrupt in the next year, 60%, so 6 out of 10. Is that then not a criteria you should take into your credit decision? The answer should be logically yes, I should take that into account. But is it not better to advise your SME to say, you know, the reason why you get a bad score on cybersecurity is because you don't have a firewall, or you don't have not updated the last, you have a website that runs on very old software where people know vulnerabilities. Then you're really helping the people. Then you're helping SMEs to have a digital footprint and be protected. That's at the end what we are trying to help with, and that's the reason why we need the scale and the investments that we are doing as MasterCard into cyber. So I will give one example of an application of how do we use AI and technology to make the world a safer place. And I want to claim it in that way. And it's one example. We can give different domains, different examples, but I think I want you to take through the logic that we have in mind. And the first thing what you have to know about cybersecurity is, and I think people mentioned it already, cybersecurity is a nightmare. Yeah? For criminals to be active as a cybersecurity criminal, or as a cyber criminal, it's not a security criminal, a cyber criminal, it takes $250 to buy a ransomware attack on the dark web and attack. So anyone can do that. Anyone with bad intention can attack you. Yeah? It can be also nation states, it can be more sophisticated attacks, but the challenge on cybersecurity is that you're protected against everything and everyone. And that's not possible. So you have to make choices. Yeah? And that's important because cybersecurity and cybercrime is there to stay. It will not go away. And there is a saying in cybersecurity world, which is you have two types of companies or two types of banks. I'll make banks. There are the ones that are hacked and the ones that will be hacked. Yeah? Only two. Yeah? But don't consider it. No one will be safe forever. Yeah? Just be aware. The lifetime of a CISO in a company that he takes in his job is 2 years. Yeah? Just 2 years on average. So just make the number. The second challenge that you have in all the cybersecurity space is that regulators think they should intervene. They should make laws around this because they want to help and to make sure that there is a minimum standard of security for everyone. Everyone is protected the right way. The challenge is not everyone is the same way. And the number one factor of cybercrime or the success of cybercrime is still the human factor, is the weak factor. It's a human that gets convinced, persuaded, fooled to step in a trap. If you look at the biggest ransomware, the biggest cyber attacks as instruments are used, it's still phishing. It's clicking on a mail that you should not have clicked on because it's not from a trustworthy source. And to be honest, it's a big question there because I'm a bit puzzled here. I don't even understand why a phishing mail, you know how we treat that as an education to our employees. What you do, you will tell them, look at who is in the to line. So from where is it coming? What is the email address there? You will look at the urgency of the mail. You look at 5, 6 factors at the end that we say, why is this not automated by a Microsoft? Why is it not automated by Google that sees all of these emails? Because if they can educate me on these 5 rules, they could stop every mail that fulfills these 5 rules. And they should be able to at least put them in a basket and say, don't trust these ones, but if you really want to look at it, you can still look at it. So just a side on that one, regulators want to intervene, regulators will intervene, and regulators find that duty to protect their countrymen and countrywomen around these cyber attacks. And they will make laws on corporates and banks on how to do cybersecurity and what to do in the minimum. And the challenge is they're different in every world, they're different in every country, because a regulator tends to reinvent the wheel on their own because they like reinventing the wheel on their own. So in that way, cybercrime is there to stay. Cybercrime will come with a lot of regulation on minimum requirements and will adapt. But that regulation doesn't make anything safer unless you do something about it, unless you put actions there and help the human factor to be more smart about their cyber risks. And the way we see this in MasterCard is we have a very simple framework. The first thing you need to do on risk, and so let me also say, I want to extend this to, I can say cyber risk, but a lot of discussion, we also do it for sustainability, for example, on ESG, or we do it on geopolitical risks. The frame is exactly the same wherever we think about. So the frame is, first, let's assess the risk. Back to my example of the loan. If you give a loan and you see a cyber risk on the SME that wants to take a loan from you, how can you help that SME? And often it is small things that doesn't require hundreds of thousands of dollars of investments in technology. Often it is just do the update on your phone the right way. Go to the latest version because there's the vulnerabilities in the previous version. Or same on website, on Magento, or whatever software technology people are using. The benefit of assessing the risk before doing anything to protect is also that you can protect, and it also counts for your bank. So if you assess the risk, the cyber risk, the ESG risk, the geopolitical risk, the supply chain risk that you have, if you assess those before taking action, you will invest the money where you have weaknesses, not where you're already strong, because otherwise the big challenge is that you invest in the wrong place. And that is something very important to be very, very careful about. So the first thing is assess your risk. There are, I sell tools, so in that I sell products, so I have products there. But the idea is there are tools like an outside view on a risk assessment. They look at your company as we look at, as criminals look at your company. But instead of using the vulnerabilities to attack you, we use it to make you a report and say, here is the things you need to work on. That's part of our risk assessment part. The second tool is then, or the second layer that you have to then say is where I have the risk, I will move into the protection solution. What are the three main, the biggest ones, attack vectors at the end? For criminals, phishing, malware, and DDoS attacks, denial of service attack. DDoS attacks is just, for those who are not in cyber, it's just bombarding your system with so many messages that you go down. That's it. And yes, regulators, European people in Europe will know, regulators make a law about that called DORA. It's not like someone to learn Spanish, but it's something about the Cyber Resilience Act, the Cyber Resilience Act, the Operational Resilience Act, sorry. So DORA is, for example, one of the regulations where they look at not only at resilience in a way for making your systems always on, but also how to protect against cyber attacks. I do repeat the three attacks where phishing, malware, and DDoS attacks. The reason why I'm saying it is I don't mention, for example, ransomware. You would say, oh, ransomware is everywhere. No, the reason why I don't say ransomware is because ransomware is not, for me, a way of attacking. It's a way of monetizing an attack. It's a way to drive money out of an attack, which is something different. With ransomware, what they have done first is or a phishing attack, or a malware download in your systems, or a DDoS attack, and then they will say, if you want to avoid repeating it or you want your data back, you pay me. That's a ransomware. And also in that space, we have solutions as MasterCard we can follow crypto. We can do anti-money laundering in crypto. These are solutions that we are building out and try to help the banking community, because these are very specific niche investments that you need to do. The last part of the way we look at cybersecurity and risk management in general, and in that way we do the same job, because at the end the bank is a risk management institute, is about how we organize ourselves. And organize is, for us, how you cooperate on this domain. How do you work together? Because no one can be cyber safe on their own. I'll give an example for MasterCard specifically. We can invest tens of millions, hundreds of millions in cybersecurity. But if someone wants to pay and there is no internet connection or there is no electricity, there's no payment. Nothing works. Yeah? So in that way, if you want to make your offering to your customers viable, you need to work together with telco, with all critical infrastructure, to be very honest, because you can't be cyber safe on your own. And that's very important to know. Be aware also that 80% of the cyber incidents are originated from supply chain. And then people will say, oh, supply chain, I have a very strong procurement department that talks with my vendors and they will all do things. The challenge is, yes, you have a relationship with your vendors, but the challenge is your vendor buys from another vendor. And if you just think about your bank and you see, I have 100 vendors in my bank, and every vendor has 100 vendors, that's already 10,000 companies. And then the third, I don't even speak third line, because then it's 10,000 times, so there's 1 million companies that are in the third line of your supply chain. And we just heard in the news last week of SolarWinds, the CISO of SolarWinds being put into trial for mistake, what is it now, 7 years ago. But the thing is, supply chain is an incremental, a very important part of your risk assessment that you need to do. And first line is easy, second and third line, you need this outside-in view for you to identify which of the suppliers of your suppliers have weaknesses and how you will tackle them and how you will go after them. So, summarizing a little bit the speak for today and the message for today is, first of all, we're all about this risk management, and I'll take the cyber example as just one example. But cyber, I mentioned it, it's not just about having the best technology. It's also about helping your people, your consumers, your SMEs to help to protect themselves. To be crucial that the commerce that they are aiming for survives. And helping that is a crucial task for all of us in this room. The second message you should keep in mind is, first assess your risk, then work on protecting your risk. Third thing you should remember is work together. This is not we cannot solve cybersecurity. Any company in the world can solve cybersecurity on its own. We are challenged in a cybersecurity market where there are probably 100,000 providers of cybersecurity solutions with each their niche, and that's very hard. That makes it very hard to kind of justify which investments do I do in cybersecurity, because there are 10,000 companies screaming about this is the best solution to be cyber safe. Now, no one can help you to be cyber safe on all the things. Why? Because cybersecurity is about protecting digital data, and data is everywhere, and you cannot protect everything everywhere. And so be aware of that you need to think about how to work together, how to coordinate the efforts of all of us. Last thing that I do want to kind of mention, and I already mentioned collaboration. Collaborating with governments is crucial also in cyber. Governments have a challenge in cybersecurity because they need companies to help them. Governments want to protect the citizens, and if you want to protect the citizens, you need to create this ecosystem of cooperation in the country. So we are big advocates on saying, please governments, organize yourself, invite the banking industry, invite the energy industry, invite the telco providers, and whoever you need in your country to be stable, and sit together on how you make a country safe. It's only by that cooperation you can make make a company, a country more cyber safe than another country. Because the story is the same in cybersecurity. If your country is safer than some other countries, they're more likely to be a victim of that. So it's a race towards security is not to be the fastest, it's to make sure that others are slower than you in a country. So be aware of that. It's also not to be the top of the class in cybersecurity. It's not to be the weakest in the class in cybersecurity, because the weakest in the class in cybersecurity are the more logical effects, and there's a big correlation between cyber hygiene and the number of times we're attacked. We see a correlation that if you get in our tools an F score, you have 40 times more to be victimized by a cyber attack instead of an A score, the best score. Just to give you an idea of how important and factual it is. With that, I don't want to talk tools, but MasterCard has built out an offering and wants to work with every bank in the world in working together to make commerce safe for everyone, because that is where the world will prosper, that is where the world will grow, and that is how we strive to an inclusive world for everyone. With that, I leave it for, we have time for one more question?
I think we've got time for just one question, I'm afraid, because we are over time. Is there one question we have from the audience at all? I see a question. Not today. Fine. I think that's been beautifully covered. So please, thank you very much, Rigo, for a really interesting presentation.